The morning sun caught her reflection in the stream, and she smiled before the world could greet her back. Jumoke always did. Beauty announced her arrival long before her footsteps did, and she walked like someone certain the earth owed her admiration. Hello guys, welcome to my channel, where interesting African folk tales about love, history, life, and courage are told. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Jumoke lived in a quiet village, where morning smelled of roasted corn, and laughter carried easily across red soil paths. From childhood, elders whispered that her beauty was a blessing. Her skin glowed like polished bronze, her eyes were calm pools, and her smile disarmed even the sternest faces. But as she grew, the blessing slowly became a throne she never stepped down from. She believed beauty was currency. Beauty was power. Beauty was destiny. While other young women learned trades, helped their mothers, or nurtured friendships, Jumoke spent long hours before mirrors, watercolors, metal, admiring herself, rehearsing the future she felt entitled to. She would not marry just any man. No, a king would come for her, or at least a prince with gold and servants. Anything less was an insult to her face. Her friends tried to laugh with her gently. When Ayo married a farmer and found joy in simple evenings, Jumoke scoffed. When Sade chose a carpenter whose hands were rough but whose heart was steady, Jumoke shook her head. "Love won't feed you forever," she would say, adjusting her wrapper. Wait until beauty opens real doors. Slowly, people stopped inviting her to help or join. She ignored chores, claiming delicate hands. She dismissed advice, claiming wisdom came naturally to the beautiful. The village tolerated her because beauty, like fire, is admired even when it burns. Then came the afternoon, everything tilted. Mama Adio arrived at the village square, just as the sun leaned westward. She was old, so back seemed permanently bowed by years. Her clothes were faded, her voice cracked like dry wood. Some called her strange, some called her wise, some whispered words they would not say loudly. Jumoke noticed her only because Mama Adio stopped and looked at her. "My daughter," the old woman said gently, "beauty is a visitor. Treat it kindly, or it will leave without goodbye." The square went quiet. Jumoke laughed. Not a soft laugh, a sharp one. "Mama," with respect. She replied, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. "Some of us were born to shine. Advice like yours is better suited for those who need it." A few gasps escaped the crowd. Mama Adio's eyes did not harden, but something ancient flickered behind them. "Pride is a loud guest," the old woman said calmly. "It eats before everyone and leaves nothing behind." Jumoke waved her hand. "If wisdom made people beautiful, you would be a mirror," she said, and laughter, unison first, followed her words. Mama Adio nodded slowly, as though confirming something she already knew. She turned away, but not before speaking one last time. "May the mirror you trust teach you what your heart refuses to learn." That night, the wind whispered strangely. Dogs howled without reason. Jumoke slept dreaming of crowns and silk. At dawn, she reached for her mirror. What stared back was not the woman she knew. Her skin looked rough, uneven, dulled like ash. Her once smooth face carried marks that did not belong. Her eyes, still hers, were trapped in a stranger's reflection. She screamed. The mirror fell, the house filled with echoes of fear. By sunrise, the village knew. Beauty had left without goodbye, and pride had begun its punishment. The days that followed felt longer than the years Jumoke had spent admiring herself. She did not step outside at first. Shame wrapped around her tighter than any cloth. When she finally did, children stared without hiding it. And adults looked away too quickly, pretending not to see. The same path she once walked like a queen now felt narrow and hostile beneath her feet. She searched every reflective surface, hoping one might lie. The screen told the same truth. Polished metal offered no mercy. Even the glass bead she once treasured showed her the same dull, broken image. Beauty had truly left her. Desperation drove her to places pride once blocked. She went to the hut of an old man, known for knowing things best left unspoken. His eyes were cloudy, but his voice was steady. The curse is simple, he said after listening, and cruel. You mocked wisdom. Now wisdom demands humility. How? Jumoke whispered. You will not see beauty again. The old man replied. Until you marry the ugliest man alive. Only then will your eyes open. The words felt heavier than stones. Jumoke staggered home, her heart torn between disbelief and fear. She wanted to laugh it off, but mirrors had already taught her laughter could lie. Days later, as if summoned by fate itself, a man arrived. His name was Badamosi. He was everything the curse promised and more. His face was harshly shaped, his skin scarred by old marks, his teeth uneven. He walked with a limp and spoke with a voice that sounded permanently annoyed. People avoided him instinctively. Children hid behind their mothers. Even the air around him felt uncomfortable. I have come to marry Jumoke, he announced bluntly. The village froze. Jumoke's knees nearly gave way. This was the man. The path she never imagined walking. Every part of her wanted to run, but nowhere remained to run to. Pride had burned all the bridges behind her. She agreed. The wedding was small and quiet. No songs, no dancing, no envy in anyone's eyes. As she tied herself to Badamosi's fate, something inside her broke not loudly, but completely. Life with him was harder than the curse itself. Badamosi was mean in small, constant ways. He complained about food, about silence, about her presence. He never thanked her. He never smiled. He treated kindness like a weakness he despised. Jumoke cried often at night, turning her face away so he would not see. But morning always came, and with it, work. For the first time in her life, Jumoke worked without applause. She fetched water until her arms ached. She cooked, cleaned, tended small tasks for neighbors who were shocked she even offered. At first, they refused. Then they accepted. Slowly, something strange happened in those quiet hours of labor. Without mirrors, without praise, her thoughts softened. She noticed things she never had before. The tired sighs of women, the patience in men's hands, the strength hidden in ordinary lives. She apologized, first to Ayo, then to Sade, then to others she had wounded with careless words. Some forgave easily, some needed time. Jumoke accepted both with bowed head. At night, Badamosi still scowled, still complained, still tested her patience. Yet, she no longer responded with bitterness. She listened. She endured. Not because she feared him, but because she feared him, but because she was changing. Mama Adio watched from a distance. One evening, as Jumoke helped a stranger carry firewood without being asked, the old woman smiled faintly. Not a triumphal smile. A satisfied one. The mirror had not yet returned her beauty. But something far more fragile and powerful was quietly growing. Time no longer mocked Jumoke, it shaped her. The days with Badamosi blurred into one another, stitched together by routine and restraint. She rose before dawn, slept after dusk, and learned the language of patience the hard way, by practicing it when it hurt most. Each insult from her husband landed softer than the last, not because they became kinder, but because her heart had grown wider. There were moments she almost laughed at herself. Once, while scrubbing pots by the stream, she remembered how she used to complain about water splashing her wrapper. Now she stood knee-deep in mud, arguing with a stubborn pot like it had personally offended her. "You will be clean today," she muttered, and a woman nearby chuckled. Jumoke smiled back. It surprised them both. She had stopped asking when the curse would end. Instead, she asked how she could do better today. Kindness became her habit, not her strategy. She helped Mama Kemi grind pepper when her hands shook from aid. She carried loads for traders without expecting praise. When children mocked her face, she corrected them gently instead of snapping back. "Words can bruise," she told them, "even when fists do not." Something softened in the village. People began greeting her again, not with awe, but with warmth. They trusted her. They confided in her. They no longer whispered when she passed. For the first time, Jumoke belonged. Badamosi noticed the change, though he never acknowledged it. His cruelty shifted from sharp to dull, like a blade losing its edge. Sometimes, when he thought she was asleep, he watched her quietly. Once, he almost said thank you. Almost. One night, rain fell hard, pounding the roof like 1,000 impatient fingers. Jumoke lay awake, listening, reflecting not on her face, but on her journey. She realized she no longer feared mirrors, because she had learned to look inward. She whispered a vow into the dark. Never again would she mock what she did not understand. The air changed. A familiar presence filled the room without sound. Jumoke sat up slowly. Mama Adio stood near the doorway, her eyes glowing with something gentle and old. "You have learned," the old woman said. Jumoke knelt immediately. "I was blind," she replied, voice steady. "Not because I was beautiful, but because I was proud." Mama Adio nodded. True beauty is quiet. It does not demand worship. She reached out and touched Jumoke's forehead lightly. "Your inner beauty has returned." At dawn, the village gasped. Jumoke's face had changed. Not back to what it once was, but into something deeper. Her skin glowed with calm. Her eyes carried kindness. The scars of the curse faded like bad memories. Beauty had returned, not as arrogance, but as grace. Badamasi stared, stunned. Before he could speak, Jumoke bowed respectfully. "Thank you," she simply. Then she left. No anger, no revenge, just closure. News traveled fast. A prince, rich and admired, arrived days later, drawn not by her face alone, but by stories of her transformation. He spoke to her gently. He listened. He saw her. Their wedding filled the village with laughter and drums. Jumoke smiled, not because she was admired, but because she understood. The mirror no longer ruled her, like cloth eased from careful hands. Jumoke did not move into the prince's life as a prize won. She stepped in as a partner chosen. The palace was large, filled with polished floors and quiet expectations. But she walked through it with the same calm she once carried buckets of water in the village. Servants noticed. Elders observed. Respect followed her naturally, not because of her title, but because of how she spoke and listened. She still rose early. Sometimes she joined the kitchen workers, laughing softly as they teased her about cutting vegetables too slowly. Other times, she sat with visiting women from far villages, hearing their worries without interruption. She remembered what it felt like to be unseen, and she made sure no one felt invisible in her presence. The prince watched her with growing admiration. He had known beauty before. It was common in royal circles. What surprised him was her restraint, her gentleness, the way she paused before speaking as if weighing the impact of every word. When he asked her once what had changed her so deeply, she only smiled. "Life taught me," she said. "I had listened." Back in the village, Badamosi lived quietly. People expected bitterness, perhaps anger, but none came. Something in him had shifted too. Jumoke's patience had worn down his cruelty like water against stone. He spoke less harshly. He helped more. Though he never became kind overnight, the edge that once defined him softened. Some lessons ripple outward long after the teacher leaves. Mama Adio was seen one last time on a market day, smiling faintly as she passed a group of laughing children. When asked where she was going, she replied, "Where I am needed." Then she disappeared into the crowd, her work done. Years later, Jumoke stood before a mirror again. Not to admire, not to judge, just to remember. She touched her face gently, grateful not for how it looked, but for what it had survived. She thought of the girl who once believed beauty was permission to look down on others. That girl felt distant now, like a story told long ago, useful only for the lesson it carried. When visitors praised her appearance, she thanked them politely and changed the subject. When young girls stared at her with the same wide eyes she once wore, she drew them close and said, "Take care of your heart. It shows faster than your face." The village prospered. The palace opened its doors wider. Jumoke moved between both worlds with ease, never forgetting where her journey began or why it had hurt. The mirror still reflected her beauty, but it no longer defined it. Moral lessons. True beauty is not loud. It does not demand attention or sit comfortably in pride. It grows quietly through humility, kindness, and respect for others. Jumoke's story reminds us that what we admire in ourselves can become our weakness if it blinds us to humanity. Pride isolates, but humility connects. When we learn to see people beyond appearances, Life opens doors no mirror ever could. Let your heart be gentle, your words careful, and your actions kind, because the beauty that lasts is the one that changes lives, including your own. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and tell us what you learned in the comments below.